Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting source material from you today. It's all about this idea, this promise, really, of getting higher grades,
So
but studying less.
yeah, it sounds totally counterintuitive, right? We're always told more hours, more effort. That's the key.
Yeah, but this source, it paints this picture of two students. You've got student A grinding away for, what, 6 hours, highlighting, rereading, the usual stuff.
Probably feeling pretty burned out, too. And then there's student B, just 2 hours maybe, but they seem way more focused, like they know what they're doing.
And somehow student B comes out on top, gets the better grades.
That's the claim. And the person behind this, valedictorian MIT double major, they're arguing it's not luck, it's strategy, learned efficiency.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. Let's unpack those strategies. How can you actually study less, but, get better results? Let's get into the tactics.
Right. And the very first thing, the foundation really, is a mindset shift. The source hammers this point. Stop obsessing over the hours.
Yeah, focus on the how, not the how much. Which is tough because hours are easy to count. You can say, I studied 8 hours. It feels solid.
It does. It feels productive just to clock in the time.
Yeah.
But the source argues that's super misleading. It says nothing about whether that time was actually effective.
So spending 8 hours just passively rereading notes is worlds away from, say, 2 hours of actively quizzing yourself or trying to explain it to someone else.
Totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
Measuring how effective your study time is, that's harder than just looking at a clock.
Yeah.
But the source insists that how you engage active recall, tackling weak spots, practice tests, that's where the real impact per minute is.
It's like the hours are just vanity metrics sometimes. They make you feel good, but the real gains come from how you use them, optimizing the method, not just the volume.
Exactly. Be smart with the time you have. Don't just throw more time at the problem.
Okay, so moving from that big idea to something really practical, the source has this really weird tip for reading textbooks, especially when you're short on time. Read backwards.
Huh. Yeah, it sounds completely wrong, doesn't it? Shouldn't you build up understanding step by step?
That's what I thought.
But the logic, especially for cramming, is you might run out of time reading normally. You could spend ages on the early stuff and never even reach the main conclusions or summaries at the end.
Okay, so how does reading backwards actually work then? What's the technique?
You literally go to the end of the chapter first, read the summary, key takeaways, review questions, get the absolute core message up front.
All right, grab the conclusion first, then.
Then you do what they call a first pass, working back. Scan headings, subheadings, look at any charts, bold words, those little info boxes. You're not reading full sentences yet, just building a mental map of the chapter.
Like getting the skeleton of it, the main structure.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Then the second pass. Now you read the first paragraph of each section, maybe skim the middle bits, and definitely read the last paragraph of each section.
So using the intros and conclusions of each part to flesh out the skeleton you got from the first pass in the summary.
Exactly. It's layered. You're grabbing the highest probability important info first. Only after all that summary, first pass, second pass, if you still have time left, then you go back for a word-for-word read. It guarantees you get the main ideas, even if time runs out.
That's actually really clever for dealing with information overload under pressure. Okay, let's switch gears. Task management. The source talks about the cost of switching between different kinds of thinking.
Oh, yeah, the transition cost. Think about the brain power needed for, like, a math proof versus writing a creative essay versus analyzing historical text. They're different modes.
And switching between them isn't instant. There's always that lag, that refocusing time, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there.
It adds up fast. So the solution proposed is batching. Group your similar tasks, do all the math stuff together, then all the writing stuff together.
Instead of doing like problem set, then essay paragraph, then reading assignment, then back to the problem set.
Right. You bundle the analytical tasks, then bundle the writing tasks. You might go from, say, 3 or 4 mental gear shifts down to just 1 or 2 big ones.
That makes a ton of sense. Get in the zone for one type of work and stay there longer. I think the source even mentioned this for non-study stuff like recording videos, batching saves on setup time.
Yeah, the principle applies anywhere you're switching mental modes. And there's a neat little tip within batching, too. Start with the easiest task in the batch first.
Really? Easiest first. I usually try to hit the hardest thing while I'm fresh.
That can work, too. But the source suggests starting easy helps you kind of slide into that specific way of thinking. So if your writing batch is a discussion post, an outline, and a big essay, Maybe start with a quick discussion post.
Ah, like a warm-up lap for that specific mental muscle. Get a quick win, build momentum. Okay, I see the logic there. Overcoming that initial resistance.
Exactly. So next up, this taps into something called Parkinson's law.
Oh, yeah, I know this one. Work expands to fill the time available. Right.
That's the one. Give yourself a whole day for a simple task, and somehow it takes all day. Give yourself an hour.
And you probably get it done in an hour, so how do you use that for studying? Just give yourself less time.
Pretty much. Intentionally underestimate. Figure out how long you think a task should take, then chop off maybe 10%, 20% and set a timer.
Ooh, that sounds stressful. Setting yourself up to rush.
It feels like it.
Mm.
But the pressure, the constraint, it forces focus. You cut out the dithering, the distractions. Remember that example from the source? The teacher who kept shortening exam times.
Yeah, the AP Psych teacher reduced it from 30 minutes down to 20 over the year, and the students adapted and still finished.
Right. It shows that sometimes less time actually forces more efficient thinking and decision-making. You have to prioritize.
So artificial deadlines can actually be a good thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of efficiency, tools. Your source mentions using AI.
Yeah, specifically as like a study assistant to speed up certain parts of the process, especially writing and research planning.
What kind of things did the source say AI could help with? Okay, so based on what you shared, it was things like brainstorming ideas, like for an essay, drafting a research plan, getting a quick outline generated,
And okay, the planning stages.
and then after you've written something, using it to check clarity, conciseness, grammar, passive voice, all that stuff, plus flow, tone. It would even mention asking it to rewrite in a specific tone, like more confident.
And plagiarism checks too, right?
Yeah, that was in there. So it's positioned not as write my paper for me, but as a tool to accelerate the outlining, drafting, polishing, and checking phases.
Making the process faster, handling some of the mechanical stuff so you can focus on the actual ideas.
That seems to be the angle, yeah. Using text strategically.
Okay. Next point hits on a psychological trap, the sunk cost fallacy. We've all been there.
Oh, absolutely. You're stuck on one really hard math problem, right?
Yeah.
And you've already spent like 45 minutes on it.
Yeah, and you just feel like you have to crack it now, otherwise that 45 minutes was totally wasted.
That's the fallacy. Letting the past time investment dictate what you do next, even if what you're doing isn't working. The source is pretty blunt here. Just stop. Move on.
Just abandon the problem, even after all that time.
For now, yeah. Go do other problems you can solve. Get some points, build some momentum. You might be able to come back to the tricky one later with fresh eyes. And, unless the questions build on each other, there's no rule saying you have to do homework or exams in order.
Right, because spending another 30 minutes banging your head against the wall doesn't get the first 45 minutes back. It just makes it worse.
It's just inefficient stubbornness, basically. Knowing when to cut your losses and move strategically is key. Feels wrong, but it's often smarter.
That's a hard habit to break, but yeah, the logic tracks. Okay, 2 more tips. This next one's about how you structure a study session doing fixed work before variable work.
Yeah, the source makes this distinction. Fixed tasks are things that take a predictable amount of time and maybe less intense focus. Making flashcards, organizing notes, finding sources.
Stuff with a clear endpoint and time estimate. And variable tasks.
Those are the brain burners. Writing essays, solving complex problems, deep analysis, and crucially, these are the ones that inflate. They follow Parkinson's law and can just soak up all your time if you let them.
Ah, okay. The tasks that never seem to end unless you force them to.
Exactly. The source uses this image. Variable tasks are like a gas. They'll expand to fill the whole container, your entire study block. Fixed tasks are like a liquid. They have a set volume.
So if you do the fixed tasks, the liquid, first.
You fill up part of the container, it leaves less space, less time for the variable tasks, the gas to expand into. It forces them into a smaller time slot.
So you guarantee the routine stuff gets done, and you put a natural time limit on the big, potentially time-sucking tasks.
That's the idea. It provides structure and implicitly applies Parkinson's law to the work that needs it most.
That's a really practical way to organize things. Okay, last one. A simple review technique. Tagging notes.
Right. This tackles that huge time waster.
Yeah.
Rereading everything before a test. We just start at page 1 and go through it all.
Even the stuff you already know perfectly well. Because it feels thorough, I guess.
It feels thorough, but it's inefficient. Your actual knowledge gaps are probably pretty specific. So the technique is dead simple. As you're learning the material the first time in lecture, Reading, put a star or use a specific color, or just some mark next to anything you find confusing, unfamiliar, or know you'll struggle to remember.
Okay, flag the tricky bits as you go. Then, when it's review time,
You only review the tagged items, you skip everything else. Your review time is now laser focused on your specific weak points, not wasted on stuff you've already mastered.
wow, that immediately makes review sessions so much more targeted and probably a lot shorter.
Way more efficient. It personalizes the review process to what you actually need to reinforce.
Okay, looking back at all this, it's a pretty strong argument against the old way of thinking, isn't it? The long hours, the highlighting till your eyes blur.
Yeah, the source basically says that whole approach is often just inefficient. The real gains, the better grades with less time, come from being strategic, from focusing on how you study.
Working smarter, not just harder or longer. These tips seem like concrete ways to actually do that.
Definitely makes you rethink those all-nighters or moments you just felt stuck and unproductive.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a better way.
Yeah, maybe putting constraints on yourself or skipping ahead wasn't laziness, but actually efficiency.
It often involves doing things that feel a bit wrong at first.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. Which one of these strategies we talked about feels the most uncomfortable or just plain wrong to you? Is it Parkinson's law, giving yourself less time? Is it the sunk cost thing, forcing yourself to move on, maybe reading backwards?
Pinpoint that one tactic that makes you kind of resist.
Hmm.
And ask yourself why. What's the underlying belief about studying that makes it feel wrong?
And then, just as an experiment, what would it take to try just that one strategy this week, even just once? How might challenging that one assumption, that one ingrained habit about good studying, actually unlock a completely different level of efficiency for you? Something to chew on.